Alright, everyone, so I just marked off another Wes Craven movie that I have not seen off my checklist. Um, guess which one it is? It's Cursed. The 2005 movie Cursed that had been apparently in production for 7 years before it was released, and had apparently had 4 different movies worth of footage. Um, because I looked up trivia about this movie after I watched it and thinking, this was pretty bad. Like, I thought this was a bad movie. I didn't like Cursed. And I went to look up trivia for it, and Judy Greer, it said, like, in a 2014 interview, she said that she didn't know why it was so fucked up, but it was literally like 4 movies worth of footage, and it was for 7 years they kept filming the movie. So it's just a mess of a movie, and that's the reason why it's probably so bad, in my opinion. I thought that it just really suffered from being so, like, there were a lot of things in it that are just so random and don't work, and there are things that I did enjoy a lot about this movie too. Not like things that made the movie great, but I enjoyed things that were okay about this movie. I thought, honestly, the acting was alright. Like, Christina Ricci is fine, Jesse Eisenberg is fine. I think those two are totally fine. Shannon Elizabeth's totally fine. The other couple characters are are fine. They're just not. The acting isn't like spectacular, but it's just average acting. Like, it's totally fine. Like, it's not like any of their best performances at all that I mentioned. But it's got such a tarnished, like the film is made in a way where it's so tarnished that, like, it's really dated because the CG is really bad, and it opens up with Bowling for Soup singing Little Red Riding Hood. And I just sat there like, okay, I know whenever this came out. I definitely know when this came out immediately, because I remember whenever Bowling for Soup was popular. So it's really dated in a lot of ways, and because it's such a mess of a movie, it's really hard to... I understand why this movie gained no praise or anything, or it's got a very negative reception online by, like, critics, of course. But I mean, it's a horror movie. Usually, a lot of horror movies critics are negative on, but this one I felt like deserved that because it was just such a butchered movie. Like, it's so random with a lot of things that happen. And I thought the opening, like, after the Bowling for Soup thing, I thought that opening kill wasn't too bad. Like, I thought that was an alright kill. I didn't mind that. I thought that was cool, having that character open and then get killed. And the kill was pretty, like, how it looked was kind of cool. And at first, they did, like, a thing where, like, you could tell this movie's butchered because they inserted this scene, which was actually pretty good, and then it became a dream sequence, and then I sat there like, whoa, that would have been a cool way to keep going with the movie, but then you've made it as a dream sequence. And I wondered if they made 4 movies worth of footage with this. I wonder if they used that, like, in another script and used it in another moment in the movie, but you never know. Since there's so much footage of it, it could have been in a totally different movie with that one scene that was inserted as a dream. It could have been something different in another version. But this is, like, despite the fact that this is a messed up movie, like, it's so butchered in the fact that it just took 7 years to make and 4 movies worth of footage. It's Wes Craven, who I do appreciate everything he did for the horror genre. And rest in peace, of course. He died, like, 3 or 4 years ago. But he's not one of those directors where I love a lot of his stuff. Like, I really do I love the first Nightmare on Elm Street and the New Nightmare, and I love Scream 1 and Scream 2. But then everything else, like, every other movie that I've seen of his just falls on the wayside. Like, it's just like, sometimes they're cool and inventive, but then most of the time they're just kind of forgettable. Like, Serpent and the Rainbow, like he did, that was a pretty cool, unique idea, but I just thought it was forgettable. Like, there wasn't anything that made me grasp onto that movie and think, oh, I want to see that again. I just thought, no, it's just kind of forgettable, even though it was interesting and unique. Or like his like Scream 3 and 4, like they're okay. They're not terrible, but they're just okay. And like The Hills Have Eyes, like I think it's totally all right, and I don't think it's as great as everybody says. Or the Last House on the Left, which I think is, from what I remember, I really didn't like it. So Wes Craven isn't one of those directors that I already love everything he did. There's a lot of stuff I don't really care for that he's done. Like everything, like it's okay. Most of the stuff he's done is all right, but it's just he's one of those directors where he's got like 3 really good ones, 3 ones I love, but like after that I'm just like, oh okay, everything is just kind of forgettable after that in terms of his filmography. And this movie, since it was so messed up and the studio was also interfering with it, he couldn't do much with this movie either. So it's not like he purposely made this movie what it is. It's just a mix of too many cooks in the kitchen. So it sucks that this is worse than what you'd expect. Maybe it could have been a tad better, but as this movie was released in this form, it's just pretty bad. And also, it just suffers from being a werewolf movie that, to me, didn't do anything new except for like the end, which I will say later. Spoiler free still, but I'll talk about it later. Everything else just felt very on by the numbers in a way where it wasn't entertaining. Like, these characters get bitten or get cursed by a werewolf and are starting to become werewolves. And they gain abilities, like they get stronger, they smell blood, like they go and eat meat, like eat raw meat. Like, it doesn't do anything that makes this movie stand out from the other werewolf movies, and it's not entertaining really at all. I mean, it's just kind of, because it was so butchered, it doesn't feel entertaining. It just feels like a weird mess. But like I said, it did feel like most of these movies already, like werewolf movies. But I'll give this credit, even though this is a bad scene, I'll give it credit that at least we had a action sequence where a werewolf is running amok at a Hollywood celebrity party. Even though I think just the thought of saying that out loud is really stupid, but I at least give him credit for doing something different, or whoever it is that did this did it different. They at least made that a unique thing, having a werewolf run amok and attacking people at a Hollywood party. And this movie fixates itself so much on Hollywood. It is in LA. It is about Christina Ricci, who is working at an agency that's like connected with celebrities, and it's so connected to Hollywood that it does the thing where it's trying to be meta like Scream, but it's not. Like, people have issues with Scream, with all the references to like horror movies, but to me that made more sense in that world. Like, in this one, it's just annoying that like they're so fixated on being in LA. They've got all these celebrities. Christina Ricci had to work at a place with celebrities, and it just connected to all that in a way where it didn't feel like it mattered. Like, it just was. It could have been anywhere. It didn't have to be in LA. So I thought that was dumb. So I don't know if Wes Craven wanted this to be Scream so bad, or if he wanted to, or if like the studio made him do this to make it feel more like Scream. And if this was 7 years in the making, then that means if this came out in 2005, it might have been started in 98. So that would make total sense if he did the first Scream and then started this, but then he went to Scream 2. So I could see why there's so many Scream references and feeling to it, but it's way worse than Scream. I love Scream, the first two, but this is way worse. It feels like it's trying to crib on that very strongly in a bad way. And also, man, I hate being so negative about this movie, but I can't find many positives about this. But the CG in this is terrible. Like, this is really bad CG. If it was 7 years in the making, then there's CG from like 98 to 2005. Like, it's a weird mishmash of like CG effects that really change depending on the year of how CG was made. So the CG is really terrible, and we get this ridiculous reveal in the third act where it feels just like Scream. It's like, instead of revealing who the killer is, it reveals who the werewolf is. And the reveal and the person involved acting in this moment, it's not their fault, but this person is terrible in this role. It's not their fault at all. I'm not saying said person who is the werewolf in this is bad in other things. The actor's totally fine in other stuff, but in this, it's so stupid with like this reveal. It's literally just like Scream, except for instead of they're the killer, they're the werewolf. It's like, oh, there's the werewolf reveal. Like, this is who it is. And then they have an explanation that's really stupid, and it's nothing like Scream. And by that I mean it's just a bad explanation about why this person is a werewolf. It's stupid. And then the fourth act happens. Well, I guess half of the fourth act, because it's like you get the reveal on who the werewolf is, and then it goes to another werewolf reveal. And it's a tad better than the villain in the third act, but it's still really stupid. And it's weird because, again, speaking of Scream, this mimics the end of Scream, where, like, the last 2 minutes of the movie, like the end of Scream, the last minute of Scream as well, where it has that type of musical score. It sounds very much like Scream, and it's so weird that this is trying and cribbing so hard to be just like Scream. It's annoying in a way where it's like, I'd rather watch Scream, because I really love the first Scream. It even fades to black in the last second of the movie, like Scream, first Scream does. It's literally the same thing, almost. So, my thoughts summed up on this movie is that this is definitely the worst Wes Craven movie I've seen so far, and I have not seen all of his works. I want to. I really do, whether they're good or bad. And this one, I've noticed in terms of, like, if you bunch together Wes Craven's films, this one usually is very low on the spectrum. Like, if you have it on a list, usually I notice this is like the bottom of the list, or close to the bottom. This one or The Hills Have Eyes Part 2 that he did is probably the worst. Like, this one or that one. They're both really bad. The Hills Have Eyes Part 2, at least, I guess, is more entertaining, because it has, like, a dog have a flashback of, like, the scenes from the first movie, so that's at least funny bad. But this one is not even funny. It's a horror comedy, but it's just so dumb, and it's so messed up and butchered because it's so many movies that they made together and just put it out, shit it out like it was a product that works, and it doesn't work. This is really bad. This is a really bad movie. It's not the worst movie ever made. It's definitely not even close. It's just not good. I didn't like this movie. Besides the okay performances, and like, I don't think there's anything else I can even give a positive to. I guess give credit to him, even though he's so meta with Scream and then this, at least he did, like, that's kind of cool. You have a werewolf wreaking havoc at an LA like an LA party or something, but it doesn't make the movie good. It's just like, oh, I noticed that's different than something I usually see in a werewolf movie. So, and the premise is different. Like, you're being in LA with werewolves, but it's still not good. Like, it's just a bad movie, and I really thought that this suffered from 7 years of being made, four different movies worth of footage. So that's why this just really did suck. This wasn't that good. So yeah, tell me what you guys think of Curse down below. I put a link on like Killer Flicks about like with the name of the movie and like what did you guys think about it, and a lot of people loved it, and that's totally fine. I just don't get it. So tell me down below what you guys think of this movie. Overall, I thought it was pretty bad.